I became interested in riding horses, I think, before I even knew what horses were. I used to ride everything that I could get my hands on, our golden retriever, the vacuum cleaner. I had one of those spring-loaded horses that you bounce on when you were a small child. So I think I used to refer to horses as bounce me's. And I think there was just that kind of attraction from a young age. I do not come from a horse family at all. My mom was a therapist. She did that later in life. Before that, she was in education and was a waitress. And my dad was a Vietnam veteran and a mechanic and worked for Bay Area Rapid Transit. So I first started riding when I was little. I wasn't learning to read super well, so they bribed me with like riding lessons, and it stuck. I never gave it up. So out of high school, I went to Europe and I worked there, and now I'm here. What drew me to dressage was I was at a barn with my first horse. My mom found us a barn with Heidi Riddle, who did dressage and eventing, and I had a little Arabian that I started with, and so Heidi's barn did both, and I grew up after my horse passed away sort of riding whatever I could and could get my hands on both dressage and jumping. And I think in high school I had a really great little quarter horse that I got to show and had some good success in dressage, and I always loved the eventing, but I a little bit wasn't drawn to the upper levels. We used to do a barn trip to Rolex, and so I walked the course at Rolex when I was like 16 years old and really was not attracted to doing that, but absolutely loved horses and always loved the technicality and the detail, you know, that goes along with dressage, and it's a lot of fun. It's really hard, but it's a lot of fun too. And so now it's just a lifelong passion.
What is your training philosophy?
My training philosophy, what is my training philosophy? I think my training philosophy just has like a whole lot to do with like really getting the horse to like explore whole body use, like helping them to find themselves like as an athlete. You know, we do a lot in the ring. We also do a good bit out of the ring. But I think just in terms of like everyday riding training, like I spend a lot of time like really trying to get them over the back. I mean, I'm sure everyone does, but like I think and taking a lot of responsibility for like how you influence the horse, like with your body and your riding and your position. I think that to me is really fascinating. So like, you know, whole health of athlete, horse, and rider would be my, I don't know that that's specific enough, but that's what came to mind. So.
And what do you consider a good horse person?
Well, to me, a good horse person is like, you know, I feel very fortunate to have two of them in the barn right now, is the person that's, you know, in at the beginning of the day and, you know, last out at the end of the day. And I don't mean that so much as you should never take a break, because sometimes I think that's one of the worst things about horse people is if you're sick or you need downtime or whatever, that we don't always take the best care of ourselves. But I think, you know, that comes from this place of always putting the horses first and always thinking about them kind of no matter what. And, you know, just having the ones that are in our care, you know, their livelihood, or like, you know, it's not their choice to like live in a stall and do what we ask them to do. So I think always wanting to provide the best care for them is really super important to me. And I think if you have that work ethic, you can learn the rest. I think sometimes I get nervous. It's definitely been like I used to get nervous, and the higher the level the stuff that I do, the less nervous I get, unless it's like that very top thing. So like for right now, it takes me like, you know, maybe, you know, it's not so much riding the test itself, but like, you know, so like for the Olympic qualifiers or like, you know, the final World Cup qualifier, like then I get a little bit nervous in those moments, you know, where it's like everything is on this test. For the rest of it, I don't get nervous anymore, but I used to. And I think for me, it's the experience of doing and doing it more and surviving it and doing it again. And for my students, I think a lot of it is the habit of doing it. I think I do have, somewhat of a sports psychologist that I work with, but I feel like it's been a lot of like just being like highly self-aware and like noticing, if you're nervous and accepting that you're nervous, but like channeling that into a good place. Sometimes not being nervous is worse than being nervous, because you can also have like, you can like get depressed and not be nervous, and that's almost like a worse place to be riding from than being nervous. Like, it's like your body does the opposite, like to deal with your nerves is like you kind of flatline. So I think I'd rather be nervous than have that happen. I've gone through both a little bit, so, but I think it's like learn by doing is a lot of it. And I think the best routine that you can have before a big competition is to not change your routine. And sometimes that's harder than anything else, because when you're coming up to something big, you want to start like nitpicking or, trying to improve this. And it's always such a fine line when you're looking for that like final 5% of just like, where is the improvement and where do you then like get in your own way by trying to tweak things. So that's what I would say is like not changing too much, like just sticking with what's gotten you there.